Hey guys, Kid here of Burn 1 with a new video series titled Back to Basics. In this video series, we're going to look at mechanics of Weiss Schwarz and how to abuse them to increase your odds of winning the game. This video series is targeted mostly towards the newer players who just got into the game and are looking to get more competitive, or maybe some veteran players who are just here to check things out and make sure they know everything. So today we're gonna talk about the mechanic of side attacking. A lot of newer players come into the game and they do not consider side attacking to do precision damage to increase their odds of winning the game. There's two scenarios that mostly come up that people, for whatever reason, do not consider side attacking to increase their odds of winning. The first one is when your opponent is at like 1-6 or 1-5 or anything like that, and they're about to refresh. And if you side attack for 1 instead of fronting for 2, you can force them to refresh with more cards. That's making them decompress their deck more for their second deck. So your following turns, you have increased odds of making damage stick, making it harder for their brainstorm, or not harder, but the odds of them hitting climaxes on brainstorm worse, so they don't get a plus as often off of brainstorms and things like that. It's something I see people just kind of glance over usually. They will forget about side attacking for 1, even though you're giving your opponent a +1 by leaving a character on the board. It does give you a lot of benefits later in the game. Also, the second scenario that I see happen a lot is when you're going for game, you can side attack for 1 or 2 instead of fronting for 3 or 4, and giving your opponent less opportunities to cancel. Sometimes people will just go ahead and front because they're too busy thinking about killing the character instead of winning the game. I only see this mistake usually happen to newer players who don't consider side attacking at all, basically, especially towards the end of the game. But I do have a video example here for you guys. And we'll just jump right into it really quick here. Here we go. So in this scenario here, it's Love Live versus Simple Gear. The Simple Gear player is on attack right now. We have is built up of 2 level 3 Chris's. For those that don't know, on attack you pay 3, discard 2, and you burn 3 to your opponent. And then the last card on the bottom there is a level 3 support that's just up there for 1 soul damage. On this Love Live side, we have a level 3 Eddie, a level 2 Kotori, and a level 0 Eddie again. If you guys want to pause the video here and think about your attack order really quick before we get into it, you can go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to just get right into it here. So his opponent is at the Love Live player is at 3-1, so we're looking to stick 6 damage here. A lot of players, I think, would consider going, especially newer players, would be front attacking with the Chris and then paying the 3, discarding 2 to go ahead and burn 3 and then swing for at least 3. This is a scenario where your opponent has to at least cancel one of those to be able to live, and then you have another Chris immediately after to burn 3 and swing for 3 again. This way, your opponent has to double cancel on those, and then you have one final attack where if you're looking to trigger, then you can hit the 3. So if one of those 3s go through, it's really, really annoying for your opponent since you have so many 3 pockets of damage here. But in this scenario, actually, we're looking at a different attack order here. So the first attack here on the Chris, we go ahead and do the ability and we front into it for 3. This Chris basically has no other option other than side attacking for 0, which is normally not a real option to pick. So we're going to go ahead and attack here with this Chris first, since we don't have an option. On these last 2 attacks here, this is where I think a lot of people would have just went with the other Chris. But on these last 2 attacks here, you do have an option to side for lower, not against the level 0, but against the Kotori. You do have an option to side for 1 in this scenario. So in my opinion, it was a smarter move to attack with this 2-soul beater here, because if you trigger, you hit them for game. If you do not trigger, you hit them to 3-6, which lets this Chris set up to side for 1 for game. And then you also have the burn 3. So if the burn 3 doesn't go through, you side for 1, because you just hit them 1 for game. And the burn 3 also burns another climax, which increases your odds of winning the game off of the side for 1 here. As you see here, opponent sides for 1 and wins the game off of that. So one thing to remember a lot of the times, especially towards the end of the game when you're going for the game ending swings, is to always attack in the order where you have options, more options later into your attack series than earlier. So scenarios where you're going to side for 0, there's no real reason to, unless you're trying to play around something. So you might as well front there first. But if your other 2 attacks, both of them can side for 1, you should just always hold off on those attacks until they're the only options to attack. That way you have more information about your opponent's damage. You know whether siding for 1 here is a better option or not, or if you want a front attack. Since you have more options, you can make better plays, and making better plays more often usually leads to more victories. So that basically brings this back to basics to the end. If you guys enjoyed this series, let me know in the comments, or just like the video. That way I know more people are interested in this, so I'll work more on videos like this. I do have a couple others in mind that I'm willing to make relatively soon. I'm just kind of looking for video examples that I can show, or I'll have to just make my own on camera. But if you did enjoy this and enjoy the content on this channel, consider subscribing, liking this video and all that. Make sure to comment, always helpful. As well as we have now opened up a Patreon. I think it's patreon.com/burn1. If you're interested in supporting our channel through Patreon, we do have Patreon only content on there. We do have rewards for all our Patreons there as well. And we have some stretch goals we're looking at to sponsor players for trips to regionals for the English side of the game. And if you think of any other Patreon rewards you guys are interested in, if it's doable, let me know and I'll just throw it up there. That way you guys can get more content. And we do have some Patreon only content that's coming out relatively soon on there. So, hey, consider subscribing on Patreon, I guess. With that being said, I hope to see you guys in the next video.